Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Jeez. Hey, y'all. I've pressed too many buttons, y'all. Welcome to a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Extra with your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of this fabulous platform, writer for Daily DDT and color commentator. Book your girl all 2025. But I am not alone on this special episode of HWP Extra. I am here with a fellow sister of mine in wrestling media. She is the host and creator of A Wrestling Gal. Please listen to that show if you have not already. And she's a writer for WrestleZone and WrestlingInc, as well as Instinct Culture with Denise Salcedo. And she is just a really great friend who I have had the pleasure of watching grow over these past couple of years. It's Ella J. What's up, Ella?
Hello. I think we go back 5 years now, Steph. Like I think it was 2020. So
Yeah.
it's been a hot minute since the last time I saw you was Survivor Series weekend in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been like 14 months. It's been a hot minute. But I'm so happy to see your beautiful face again and talk about my favorite pay-per-view, of course, or premium live event as they call it now.
Yeah, we go way back, and I am just so happy, to have met you. There are so many people I'm so thrilled to have met, and you're definitely one of them. We have Astrid in the comments
Hey,
on YouTube.
Astrid.
Hey, Astrid, thank you so much for watching. And of course, thank all of you guys for watching live if you're watching right now on any one of the platforms. And of course, if you're watching on X/Twitter or anywhere else, just share, retweet, and all the things. And of course, you will be able to listen to this later as the audio will be posted everywhere the Hardy Wrestling Podcast is. So, as Ella did just allude to, we are here to talk about the Royal Rumble, which is such a huge pay per view that is coming up. Oh my God, next week. I cannot believe it. It's one of the big four pay per views that started in 1988 before the both of us were both born. But
Yes.
either way, it's a very significant pay per view that starts the year off right in terms of WWE and the road to WrestleMania. And of course, if you're new to the WWE world or the wrestling world, the Royal Rumble is this amazing match where it's a battle royale where you have to throw a number of people off of the top rope in order to solidify yourself to win a championship opportunity at WrestleMania for the championship of your choice. And of course, it's had different iterations throughout the years, and different formations in terms of people and who they chose to go after in terms of world titles. But yeah, that's a little bit of the history of it. So, Ella, you did mention that this is your favorite pay per view. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about why it's your favorite and what is your favorite thing about it that just makes you feel at home with it?
I think for firstly sentimental reasons, because I started watching wrestling in the summer of '09. I only watched SmackDown, didn't really know that Raw was a thing or like premium live events or pay-per-view. So the 2010 Royal Rumble was the first pay-per-view I ever watched, like period, for wrestling. And that's when Edge came back. There was this huge surprise. I'm like, what is this match? So it's sentimental reasons, but also like the surprises. Like, it's so fun to fantasy book this because it's genuinely, a lot of wrestling nowadays I feel like is very predictable. The Royal Rumble is typically not, like, you can't predict every single layer, like who's gonna come in at what number. You could have legends, you could have NXT people, you could have Hall of Famers, you could have free agents showing up, you could have people from other promotions showing up. It is one of the few things in wrestling that I think is truly like unpredictable. Even if the winner might seem a little bit predictable, there's so many surprises, and like who's going to come out at number 1 and 2, who's going to have the most eliminations, is R-Truth going to accidentally enter the women's Royal Rumble again, is a woman going to enter the men's like Nia Jax, you know? There's so many unpredictable, unexpected elements that, like, how can you not love it? It's one of the few things I feel like is truly unpredictable and unexpected, and it's just so fun to like make bets who's going to come in at number 1 and 2. You can fantasy book all these things. So I think just the excitement of it and the unpredictability of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very exciting. And over the years, it's giving us such amazing moments to look back on. And it also, and I feel like in more recent years, it also sort of paints a picture as to who is going to be on top. As the year continues to progress. And that's something that I definitely enjoy about it as well. But also for me, it's very sentimental as well. When I saw you talking about it online, I was just like, you know, she's the perfect person to talk to about this, because for me, and I've discussed this on HWP before, the Royal Rumble is sentimental for me because on the very first episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, I talked about the Royal Rumble 2020 and everything that happened afterward during that whole week, which set the precedent for the formation of HWP as you know it, with the news and with the recaps and everything else.
Yeah.
So the idea that, you know, it's beginning to mean so much more even now is just very emotional for me, because 2020 was a pretty astounding year in terms of wrestling. And then even though at that time we had no clue all the changes that were going to happen, but either way, it was just really amazing to see, you know, how everything played out. But we'll talk about that later, because you did share with me some of your favorite Royal Rumble moments. And of course, since this is HWP and I start with the women first, we have to talk about the women's Royal Rumble of 2018.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that one was one of your favorites. And this is, of course, the first women's Royal Rumble to ever happen in WWE history. So it means a whole lot to women's wrestling history and the fandom of it. And just to talk about some moments from it and some highlights, Sasha / Mercedes Moné, but known as Sasha Banks at the time, was the number 1 entrant. And number 2 was Becky Lynch, who we now know as the Man. And it's really amazing to see these two started off, considering they had such a heated rivalry in NXT, and they had a little bit of a rivalry on the main roster. But anytime these two come together, they just make magic, and I just loved watching them in this match. So Ella, is there anything you want to put into this, seeing as this is one of your favorites?
Yeah, this I still think is also the best women's Royal Rumble like ever. Still, maybe 2025 will show up and show out, but to me, nothing has beaten it thus far. Sasha Banks also set the record at the time. It's since been taken over by Bayley. But 54 minutes, I think it was. She went the gauntlet. She made it to the final 4, I believe. She eliminated Trish Stratus. Like, that was a face-off that a lot of people were wanting. So we had that in there. We also had the moment between Mickie James and Trish Stratus, which was also so much fun. You had the return of the Bella Twins. I think this was where Nikki eliminated Brie as well. So
she sure did.
There was a lot of twists and turns, and we had a lot of legends in there. Lita coming out at number 5, the first legend to ever enter the Royal Rumble, the Women's Rumble. Like you said, Trish Stratus and Sasha Banks. We had like Michelle McCool in there. She eliminated 5 people. At the time, it was the record. Yeah, Nikki and Asuka. That was a great final too. A part of me was like rooting for Nikki. I'm like, girl, but then also at this time, Asuka still had her undefeated streak, so it made sense why she won. one. But again, like just so many moments in the first one of bringing together the present and the past with legends. Like Nikki at this time wasn't as active in WWE. Going together against someone like Asuka was such a great final too.
Yeah, it really was. I remember watching this. I was on my way home from work and just watching it on my phone, but just feeling all the emotions from it and
Yeah.
the build up to it, and how, how excited I was when Stephanie McMahon, who was on commentary for
Yes.
this match, um, made the announcement that it was happening. I just could not believe how much history was just in this match. It felt like a deep love letter to women's wrestling at that time, and
Mhm.
just the idea of Asuka winning, I was just so thrilled for her, because in NXT she was just the final boss.
Yeah.
Not like The Rock, but of course, in her way, as the Empress of
Yeah.
Tomorrow, she was it. So for her to go on and win after lasting so very long against so many women who could have very well won it was just insane. Then, of course, you have the standoff that she had with Charlotte Flair, who was the SmackDown Women's
Yeah.
Champion at the time, and Alexa Bliss, who was the Raw Women's Champion. Then you had the debut of Miss Ronda Rousey. Like, it was just all just a huge collection of superpowers in this one night, but it was still just an amazing moment for sure.
I agree. I feel like I still have a little bit of a gripe with, I feel like Rhonda coming, like, I get it, she's joining at the time, it was huge, but I feel like a little bit overshadowed Asuka's moment. Like, this is a historic moment, the first ever Women's Rumble, Asuka's the first ever winner. Who's she gonna face, Alexa or Charlotte? 3 superpowers in the ring right there. I get what they wanted to do with Rhonda, she was coming in, like, she's gonna uplift the women's division at the time. I feel like it took a little bit away from Asuka's moment.
Hmm.
But I understand it. I feel like Ronda could have showed up maybe at the Raw after, or something. I feel like that maybe would have been more effective personally. Um, I'm not mad at it, but I'm still a little bit like, could have done it a little bit differently. But a historic first, and still to me the best women's rumble yet. So
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you there. Looking back at it, in the moment, I was excited,
yeah,
because I had been following Ronda Rousey in her UFC career. So
yeah,
to see her, and well, to have watched all of her interviews where she talked about wrestling, and then boom, here she is in our world. It was just like, oh snap, here she is. But in the moment when you think about it, I feel that that moment did kind of overshadow Asuka being the first woman to win. Like, that
mhm,
deserved, you know the praise and the adulation that it should have had, and it was just really weird to see that moment sort of be overshadowed by Ronda Rousey, who was just the baddest woman on the planet at that time. So,
yeah,
all eyes were going to be on her at that point. So, yeah, that was a little bit, weird that maybe they should have put it somewhere else. But either way, I am very thrilled that that was one of your favorite ones, and I do agree to a degree that it could have been one of the best ones, but of course we do have other ones to discuss, because you
we
did
do.
say that there
Yes,
is another one that you loved, which was the 2023
I was there
women's.
live for this one.
Oh my god, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides the botch at the end where they played Nia Jax's music before the counter like was even done, they started playing her music at like the count of 5, like down 10-1. They
Hmm.
besides them prematurely playing her music, I must say, like the 2023 Rumble, you have number 1 and 2 going the whole entire way. Asuka coming, I think this was a return for Asuka to her going all the way to the final 3.
It
Um,
was.
this was a really fun one to see live, and this was my first attending the Royal Rumble live ever, so it was a different perspective, and I've gone back and watched it. I feel like it's also sentimental to me, but also like the first time I think Rhea Ripley was the first woman to go the entire way, number 1 to,
Yes.
and then Liv Morgan obviously going to all the way as well. And also like you saw the rivalries in there. So that, yeah, 2023 is very sentimental to me as well. And then
Yeah.
obviously, it's another layer in their history between Liv and Rhea as well.
Yeah, it's really nuts. Like when I looked up the information in terms of my research to see that these were number one and number
Yeah.
two, in 2023, only for them to go on in their history to beef
Hmm.
with each other for the entirety almost of last year.
Yeah.
It was just really funny, and now it's ended. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I just love that's just one of my favorite parts of the Royal Rumble is that sometimes it feeds into longer storylines in terms of rivalries that could very well happen. So to see that come full circle in that way was just really interesting for me. And then you have Roxanne,
Her
an
debut in the
NXT.
Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah. You have, NXT stars who make their debut on the main roster in this match. You have Roxanne, who was NXT champion in her first reign at the time. And you had Indy Hartwell do that as
Mhm.
well. It was just like, wow, like it I love it when they incorporate people from NXT in that match. And then you had the debut of
Chelsea's,
Chelsea
yeah, her
Green.
return. That was
Her
so much
return to
fun.
WWE. I was so excited for her because I just loved her, so
Hmm.
much and still do. And then she broke the record for the quickest time in the match and she was eliminated in 5 seconds. And to see her have this moment and see her be as dramatic and crying about it, which sort of fed into her
Hmm.
Karen-like behavior on Raw and to lead to where she is now as the first ever women's United States champion. It's just so she'll always be famous because she's just so funny
I
and she
agree.
just makes the most of her screen time. But I wanted her to go to distance because I was just like, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And then she gets eliminated. I'm like,
We got to see, luckily last year, I think she lasted like 17 minutes. So we got to
no.
see a lot more last year. Her and Piper saving her from being eliminated last year. I hope that she's an Iron Woman this year. I think it, like, if she, because you don't have to be in the ring the whole time. I could see her absolutely like pulling a Santino and like leaving the ring for a while. And then people think somebody else has won. But then Chelsea comes in at the last minute and then almost wins. So like I would love to see that. That would be a Chelsea thing to absolutely do with this year's. But yeah, this was a really, if she wasn't going to go the distance, she is happy that she said a record is still a record, as she said. This, I feel like, was a great way to get her back and very on par for her character. But I hope she goes a distance this year.
Yeah, Ella, this actually leads me to asking a question of you. Do you believe that current champions should be in the Royal Rumble? Because
Hmm.
I know that can be very divisive for certain fans.
Charlotte entered the 2022 Women's Rumble. It's possible. Right now though, I don't think so. I feel like the women's roster is so expansive. And you have NXT people coming in, you have TNA people who could potentially coming in the Rumble. So just for numbers wise, I don't think that they should be taking up like one or two spots in the Rumble because now the problem used to be is that we didn't have enough women, so they would have to call back like legends and stuff. We don't have that problem anymore with them in between the main roster and NXT people, legends, potentially TNA. So no, I don't think so because now it's a good thing to say there's a limited number of spots for the women. So I know I don't think so unless it's like NXT, unless it's Julia. But main roster, well, okay. So do we count like because Chelsea's technically a champion right now, so is Lyra. I think it'd be fine if they were to enter because then they can go potentially go after a world title. But if we're talking Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton, then no. The world champs that the winner would be going after, then no. Julia, fine, she could. I don't think she would win. She would get a big pop. But if it's like a Chelsea or a Lyra, sure, because they could theoretically go after the world title.
Yeah, but then you also think about the fact that if Julia were to enter, that would be funny, but then that
Oh
would
yeah,
be fun in a good way.
yeah,
But at the same time, whoever wins the Royal Rumble match could very well choose to go after her, just
they
like
could.
Charlotte
Yeah,
did in 2020 when
that's
she
very
went after
true.
Rhea.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would just be really interesting if that happened. But I know that I just had to ask you that because I know there are some people in the wrestling fandom who feel that champions either should sit it out because the champions are the goal,
Mhm.
or you have certain fans who wouldn't mind it. So I just had to ask you that, like,
Yeah,
Chelsea?
I think Rhea and Tiffany should sit out because they're like the world champions on the main roster. But if it's like a
Hmm.
Chelsea or a Lyra, no, because they can still go after a bigger prize if they theoretically win, you know?
Hmm. And just to talk more about, the winner, you had Rhea, who won this one this
Yeah.
year. In 2023, and she went on to face off against Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which then turned into the Women's World
Yes.
Championship that she held for a long time. And I'm very grateful and very blessed that I got to witness that match at WrestleMania in Los
Oh, I'm
Angeles.
jealous.
That match left me breathless. Like there are so like that match I feel like is really what women's wrestling is all
Yeah.
about, because to see those women go as hard as they did, knowing full well that they probably could have been in the main event for night one,
Mhm.
was just unbelievable. And to see Rhea get her lick back after, losing the NXT women's title to Charlotte in 2020 was just
Mhm.
such an amazing journey. I loved it. So, and yeah, Rhea just, was just really on fire at this time, and she
Yeah.
still is at this point. So, yeah, nothing is ever going to slow this woman down ever.
Now
She
she's
she's
back
our
on top.
eradicator.
Mommy's back on top now.
Yes, we love her so, so much. So yeah, and just another moment just for me, I just had to mention Selena
Yeah, her gear.
being in this match dressed as Jury from Street Fighter, and she
Yeah.
was also a commentator on the Street Fighter game as well. So this was really cool, and I'm just still holding out hope that one day, she will be a champion this year. So we're just hanging on, hanging on, hanging on. But yeah, this was a really cool moment to see her do the Jury kick onto Xia Li, even though I know that's not her name now. No disrespect. But yeah, this was a really amazing Royal Rumble. I liked it a lot. So yeah, you also mentioned that in terms of the men, that the Royal Rumble 2008 was one of
Mhm.
your favorites, and this one took place in New York City at Madison
Yes.
Square Garden. And this was just a very funny poster because you had all the men fighting each other in the
Yeah.
subway. Which seems like pretty on par behavior
It's
in the
so
subway
funny.
at New York. But I know when I was there that this type of shenanigans wasn't going on.
Yeah,
I had
no.
safe rides in the subway.
Luckily, that's good. I would not wanna see a men's Royal Rumble taking place in a subway. I do not wanna see that.
But wouldn't that be amazing though?
It would, but it'd probably have some damages along the way, though.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure the transportation
Mhm.
association would be like, why? Why are we
Yeah.
doing this? But yeah, this is where it took place in Madison Square Garden. It was the first pay-per-view at the time to be broadcast in high definition. You remember
Wow.
WWE HD?
Yeah.
It's so crazy to think about. In the men's Royal Rumble, Michael Buffer was a special guest ring announcer. He is perhaps one of the greatest ring announcers of all time in the WCW days. And number one was The Undertaker, and number two was Shawn Michaels, which feeds into their rivalry.
Yeah. The
I'll
prelude
let
to
you go
that.
ahead and take over for that.
Yeah, the prelude to their rivalry at the succeeding WrestleManias in 2009 and 2010. What a hell of a number 1 and 2. I just have to say, like, you can't get much better than that. But I feel like honestly, the reason like this is so high up is for what was he, number 30? John Cena.
Yes.
Also number 29 and 30, Triple H and John Cena. That's a heck of a first two and a final two. I just have to say that.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the big thing, granted, this was before I started watching wrestling, but like to come back so early from an injury, again, a lot of things are spoiled in wrestling. I don't think anybody like that was a safely guarded secret. Like John coming back early from his injury and then coming in at number 30, and then he just has that iconic pose and he's like, I'm back. And then him coming in and eventually eliminated Triple H for the win, I feel like was a big shock. So I mean, how can you hate the 2008 Royal Rumble, like, and the winner? Like, I feel like it was overall top to bottom a really fun one.
Yeah, and then you had the likes of Batista
Yeah.
in it, who I believe made it to the final four, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he
Yeah,
made
that's
it to the
correct. He was
final
eliminated
four.
by Triple H in the final 3. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and Triple H was definitely hauling all kinds of behind. Yeah,
I know.
and then you had OG legends in this one as well. You had Roddy Piper and Jimmy
Mhm.
Snuka in it as well. So and you also had Big Daddy Viscera in it as well. You
Oh
know,
my
rest in
god,
peace to
yeah.
all of those people. But yeah, Triple H was hauling all kinds of butt. He had 6 eliminations in
Mhm.
this match. And I remember my dad wanting him to win this match so bad because my dad is a Triple H stan. If
Yeah.
there's any wrestler that my dad will slide for, it's Triple H. Like he is gonna slide for him in all things. So he wanted him to win so bad, but then you have this famous look that Triple H has on his face when John Cena pops up as number 30. Then
He's
on top of that,
like
like what? And then on
Yeah.
top of that, you have JR, who was on commentary with Jerry the King Lawler, making one of the best calls of his career with John Cena's return. And I was
Mhm.
so thrilled. So this was before, just to paint the picture for my wrestling fandom, this is before I was watching pay-per-views like that. Because
Yeah.
here again, this was where you had to pay
And,
a
like, for,
huge
like,
amount of
50
money,
bucks. Yeah.
to get that. So I didn't see this until the Raw after. So
Okay.
watching John Cena come back on that Sunday and then
Mhm.
see it on Raw, I was so surprised. I was like, "Oh my God, John Cena's back!" I was so excited
Yeah.
because that injury looked like it was really rough. But he came down to Birmingham, came down here, got fixed up, rehabbed, and came back and won the whole thing and beat Brock Lesnar's time by being in the match for 31 seconds and eliminating a lot of people in order to win this year. So it was nuts.
Agreed.
Yeah, and now we fast forward to now where he's going to be in his final one.
I
Ella.
know, it's so sad. Like, the one thing that I wanted to do this year, I was like, I have to see John Cena. So I'll be at Elimination Chamber. John Cena's confirmed for there. I'll like if nothing else, I just want to see John Cena one more time this year. And
Mhm.
you're getting to do that. You'll be at the Rumble. I will get to do that a month later. So that's all I wanted this year. I just want to see Cena one more time.
Oh my God, like seeing John Cena this year is just really like emotional because last year I was at Money in the Bank when he made his announcement.
Yeah.
So the idea but so first of all, I just want to say please
Yeah.
enjoy Canada. Like Toronto is amazing. I
Yeah.
loved it.
I
Um
yeah.
but being there when he made that announcement of him retiring, it was almost like my heart just fell on the floor.
When
I
he
was just like,
came out with the
"Excuse me?"
towel that said the last time is now, I started crying, Stephanie.
Oh,
So, like, I
Ella.
know if whenever he every time he comes out and he holds up the last time is now towel or he has the shirt on, a part of me is going to die inside and cry.
Yeah. Oh my God, I want to die inside too. Because it's almost like when you grew up with a person and you watch their
Yeah.
career grow and then you're watching it end. But the
Mhm.
thing that I am grateful for is the fact that, it's not his body telling him that he has to stop
Yeah, it's
immediately
his own
or
terms.
anything. Yeah, it's his
Yeah.
own terms. And I'm really grateful for that because there are so many people who did not have it that way.
Yeah.
And so the idea that he's ending it on our terms and we get to enjoy him and bask in it for this entire year, it's
Yeah.
just an amazing thing. He's doing the Kobe Bryant thing. And I'm just really happy about that. So getting to see him at this point in time is just really great. And I'm just really grateful for that. And we'll never stop seeing him on the outside because
Oh,
he
I
has a
know.
McDonald's deal now.
Yeah.
You pull
Yeah,
up to the drive through, there he is on the screen.
I saw the commercial last week during Raw for the first time. I'm like, now I want McDonald's, John. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. So we'll never stop having him. We'll just
no.
stop having him in this regard. But,
Yeah.
we get to bask in that. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. He's given us so much. So we get to give him our love in return. So I'm happy about that. So, in the midst of everything, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Royal Rumble moments, and that's definitely 2020. Like I mentioned before, the women's match in
Yeah.
2020 was pretty awesome because you had the main roster debut of Bianca Belair
Yes.
in her beautiful black and gold gear, which I love. And her and Alexa Bliss had a moment. And then a few years later, when Bianca was Raw Women's Champion, they went on to have a match at the Royal Rumble too. So seeing her and her debut just had me so excited. And she had a lot of eliminations that year as well. So it was just really insane for me. Then at the time, she was beefing with Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship
Yeah.
too. So this was just a fun time to be a Bianca Belair fan. At this point, you also had Mighty Molly come back, and let me just say, at this point in time, I did not know that Mighty Molly was a character because the first time I saw Molly, she was Molly Holly, and
Yeah.
she was just standing on her own by herself, beefing with everybody else. So seeing her as Mighty Molly was just a switch for me. So I had to go back and do my research and see that she did hang out with the Hurricane, who was one of my favorites back in the day. So yeah, this was just really amazing here and watching her, fight with the other women. And then you had Naomi pop up with her natural hair,
Yeah.
which gave me life and gave every other black woman life who stopped watching wrestling, but then they saw her pop up with this look and they were just like, hold up, let me get back into the swing of things. It was so amazing to see that, and since I've had my hair natural for a number of years now, to see Naomi have her hair full out like this, it was just so beautiful. And I felt seen and it was just very heartfelt. So it was just a very beautiful moment here. And of course, she had her Kofi moment where she climbed up on the
Yes.
barricade and kept herself from getting eliminated, jumped right back onto the steps, And even
But
in
then
the
Nia
first,
Jax threw her out, I think.
yeah, Nia Jax knows how to hurt our feelings, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Girl, she knows how to break our hearts and not
Yeah.
care about it. But in the end, Charlotte wound up winning the Royal Rumble, and like I said earlier, went on to challenge Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Title. This, as Charlotte does, splits people down the middle because a lot of people were really happy about it. A lot of people weren't happy about it. They were just like, "Why does Charlotte have to win?" Blah blah blah. But I was just kind of thrilled for it because I was just like, "Okay, Charlotte Flair, this is yet another accomplishment you can tick off."
Mhm.
So this was really great for me. I enjoyed it. I loved watching her win on this day. I loved her gear because it reminded me of Washington apples. So yeah, I just loved watching her win in this regard. It was really cool. So yeah, big ups to Charlotte. Do you think there's a possibility that she could win this year, Ella?
She is my winner pick, so yes.
Oh, expound upon that. Talk about more about how you feel like she could be.
So for me, there's only one. I mean, for me, there's one of three people who could win the Women's Royal Rumble this year, one of them being Charlotte. So right now, the people think that the plan is Charlotte and Tiffany, Io and Rhea, and then maybe something else. So if you go by that logic, you would either have Io or Charlotte win the Royal Rumble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then whoever else win Elimination Chamber. I think that they would want WWE. I think they would want Io in Elimination Chamber because she can do all the high flying spots. We've seen her inside War Games. That to me, I feel like, and I love Charlotte. I'm a big fan of hers. I feel like Io is more entertaining though inside cages. So I
Mm-hmm.
would put Io in Elimination Chamber and have her win. So then by default, I think one, Charlotte not only returns at the Royal Rumble, but I think she becomes the first ever two-time Women's Royal Rumble winner, punches her ticket to WrestleMania, and faces Tiffany Stratton. But there is somebody who I think is a dark horse. We have not had anybody from NXT or a call-up, somebody in their official call-up win the Royal Rumble. Roxanne Perez is the perfect person to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And she has history with both the current women's champions, that being Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton. She's faced both of them. So I feel like that would be a dark horse winner if you want to do something new, like a first, like the first NXT call up to win the Royal Rumble, I think would be really exciting. But I think logically, like Charlotte makes more sense, and I would love to see. I'd rather see Io win Elimination Chamber than the Royal Rumble. I'd be happy with all three though, honestly, because I love them so much. But Charlotte is my winner pick for the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that is a really solid pick because she's been gone for so long and she's someone that I
I
do
miss
miss.
her so much.
I miss her a lot too. So her coming back in such a big way, that would be a huge way to come back and to
Yeah.
stamp your name in history. Like, oh, so y'all miss me. Here I go.
Yeah.
Boom. Win the Royal
First
Rumble
time,
again.
2-time Women's Royal Rumble winner. People are saying like Becky Lynch could also do it.
Yeah. It's a lot of choices.
Yeah, there Alexa Bliss could be coming back. Asuka could be coming back, but I think like right now
Carmella could come back.
Yeah, I think right now the plans seem to be Tiffany and Charlotte though. So then by default, like Charlotte either wins Chamber or the Royal Rumble. I think Io is more entertaining and enticing to win Chamber. Granted though, Charlotte has not won an Elimination Chamber, so that would be another tick in her, career. So that could. But I think the Queen is gonna claim the throne of the first 2-time Women's Royal Rumble winner. Personally, who you got?
Oh, Jesus. I feel like you, I'm sort of going with Charlotte as well. But also my second choice would be Naomi simply because she's just never won one before. And I just feel like on a huge level, I feel like outside of her being tag team championship, she's just lost so much. So many opportunities at the women's championship. So for me, I feel like she has the biggest chip on her shoulder in that regard. So if Naomi were to win, I would definitely love it in terms of that form of storytelling, even though I feel like they are going somewhere else, which is going to be entertaining nonetheless. But I would really love it if Naomi won, but I feel like Charlotte is definitely my larger pick because she's been gone for so long and she might want to, reclaim her dominance in that way. So it would be huge, but those are my two predictions for that. So yeah, that we are in for a time. But just to go into more of my favorite moments is definitely 2021. That is one of my favorite women's Royal Rumbles simply because like I keep harping on is storytelling.
Yeah.
And this final three right
I
here
know.
hit for me in a very personal manner because we keep talking about Rhea and Charlotte, and how they had their beef with each other over the NXT women's title in 2020. But then Bianca was sort of the one who was thrown off to the side, literally by Charlotte in the midst of that. And this had a huge part of the fandom upset because they wanted Bianca to be NXT Women's Champion because of how talented she was, because she had the charisma and all of the things that have propelled her to success now. So because we saw it, we were like, look, how come she can't beat Rhea? Why does it have to be Charlotte and all this other stuff? So to fast forward into the next year and have these three be the final three just did something for me, and it just hit super hard in terms of storytelling, and I just loved it because what do you mean? And it was just so beautiful. And then the fact that Rhea and Bianca, the two stars of the future, eliminated a 4-horsewoman in Charlotte, and Charlotte couldn't do anything but laugh after it was over. Like, it was just so funny for me, and I was like, okay, Rhea and Bianca, let's go. So it was just really cool for me. Then you had Naomi in it. And the moment that I loved the most from this Royal Rumble was the fact that they helped each other.
Both almost were eliminated,
but they helped each other stay in the match. And in terms of unity for Black women, that meant everything for me. I was just like, yes, help each other, sisters. Yes. And I don't know if that was something they did on purpose or if that was just something they just thought of at the last minute. But that just blessed my soul. And then after Bianca won, they shared a black and white picture of each other, hugging each other, because Naomi was essentially one of the inspirations for Bianca to start her wrestling career in terms of representation. So that moment, just lives in my head rent free. And then you also have, the legends that came back, and one of them being Victoria, who we did just see, like last week. So the idea of legends coming back always hits different. And I remember watching this with my boyfriend and his family, and I remember being the only one who knew who Victoria was in that moment because at the time they weren't watching. So they
Yeah.
didn't know immediately who Victoria was, but I said, "Boom, no, that's my girl." And and I was just so pumped for that. So to see her back in the thick of things, I was just like, "Victoria, give her all the things now." But she's hopefully set to get all of her things at some point. Probably this year, Hall of Fame. You never know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, honey. But I wouldn't be mad if she showed up in the Royal Rumble this year either. So
Same.
this was fantastic. And then in this picture, you see the iconic slash the inspiration. hmm hmm Maybe we'll see them again in the thick of things. You
I hope
never know.
so.
But yeah, in the end, Bianca wound up winning, and she became the second ever black person to ever win a Royal Rumble and the first black woman to ever do that. And she would go on to make more black history by challenging Mercedes
Sasha
Moné for
Banks.
the
Yeah.
SmackDown Women's title, and they would go on to be the first black women to ever main event WrestleMania. And that, of course, means the world to me too. So that Royal Rumble for me just means a lot. And I was just screaming at the television when she won. I almost lost my voice. But I didn't care. It was worth it.
That
So
was a great one too for me personally because I got a
yeah.
teaser of one of my dream matches being Mickey and Charlotte, and that was the
Ooh.
closest I ever they were chopping each other and going woo woo. That was the closest I ever got to my dream match. So that is also I love that one as well.
Oh my gosh, yes. That sounds like an amazing match. I would die. I would die. So another one of my favorites is the 2024, the one from last year, where you had a number of superstars come in. You have Katana Chance down there,
Yeah.
Candice LeRae, Bailey, who will go on to win, Bianca hitting her backflip right there, and then you had the debut of Jade Cargill, the most incredible, most beautiful, most goddess like woman ever pop up at the Royal Rumble. I was not expecting this at all. Like a part of me felt like maybe if she was going to debut, I thought maybe she would debut in NXT and that would have been
Oh.
cool. But when she popped up at the Royal Rumble, I was so excited. I was like, "Look at her shine."
She was my winner pick last year for the women. She
That's a
she
good
made it
pick.
pretty far and she had a couple eliminations. She didn't
Mhm.
win. She was my winner pick last year.
That's a really solid pick. And there's just so much here again. This is another Royal Rumble that just fed into my whole story thing. And then you
Mhm.
had this moment here where you had these two staring at each other. And it was just like, oh my God, are they going to fight? I was so scared. I was
Yeah.
just like, are they going to fight each other? Are we getting this now? And I was just so pumped for this. And this picture, um, fed into one of my first articles that I wrote for Daily DDT about who Jade's first opponents could be.
Mhm.
And Bianca was the last one because I had to save the best for last in
Of
that because
course.
this as a match just just
This is
screams main event.
WrestleMania.
It
Yeah, this is
screams WrestleMania main
yeah,
event.
I
It
agree.
just does. But of course, this they actually wound up having a partnership, and I wasn't
Mhm.
too angry about that either because I mean, these are two powerful women. What do you mean? Like I was very happy
Mhm.
to see them unite their powers and become two-time, tag team champions. And I can't wait for Jade to come back and bless us with her presence again. So in the midst of all of this, though, you have a lot of these women who were in the final few of this match who are basically involved in great stories, even now, and held championships. You had Liv, who was the last woman
Mhm.
to come in that match, and then she would go on to be champion. You had Tiffany Stratton, who was in that match, and then she went on to become Miss Money in the Bank and went on to be champion. And then you have Bianca and Jade, who were going to be tag champions as well. But ultimately, Bailey wound up winning.
Mhm.
And this was really amazing here because 3 out of the 4 horsewomen have won a Royal Rumble. Now that Bailey has won one, Becky won one, and now Charlotte. Now, Mercedes, she has to come back maybe and win one.
2026.
Maybe 2026,
Mhm.
2027. You never know.
Actually, now that
But
I'm thinking about where it is next year, let's say 2027.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Do you believe that do you because there are a lot of fans who felt a way about Royal Rumble next year being in Saudi Arabia. So do you believe that they would forego a women's or still keep the women's Royal Rumble?
If they don't do it, they know that they're gonna get a riot, a justified riot. So
Hmm.
I think they I think they have to. It's just obviously the women are probably the women. I feel bad for the women that are gonna be the Iron Woman of that match because they're gonna be sweating their butts off. Like if
They
they're in
are.
there for an hour, to what's the word, abide by the the modesty laws. I feel bad for the Iron Woman of that match because they're probably going to be sweating their butt off. Um, so I feel like WWE, they have to have one, or else they know they're going to get a justified riot from us.
Yeah, I know. I feel there's a part of me that feels like they've evolved. I
Yeah,
feel like they've helped Saudi Arabia to evolve in that way because at one point when they first started having Crown Jewel, there weren't any
there
women's
weren't
matches on
any.
there at
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
And then when you think about how Mercedes and Alexa did their match in Abu Dhabi,
hmm,
and how that set the precedent for the women's matches to come afterward to even happen at this point. I feel like they will have one, but I'm pretty sure that those women are going to have to they're going to have to find a way to keep those women taken care of in the
yeah,
midst of it. And that's all that I can hope for. I mean, I am happy for that audience that they get to experience that because think about it, we've had Royal Rumble since 1988 and they've
yeah,
all been in the United States.
yeah,
And WWE is really taking the world in their name very seriously. And the entire world deserves to see stuff like that live and not just watch the reruns of things or be a behind on certain things. Like they deserve to be in the know. So if they can have that experience, and I'm all for the fans getting that experience because we're all a big family, fan wise. So I just feel like if they have that experience and they have it, but as long as the wrestlers are taken care of, especially the women, that's all I care about.
I agree.
So, yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be different for us, but at the same
Yeah,
time, it's not all about us. We're not the only wrestling fans
that is
that
true.
exist.
That is
So,
true.
the others get to have fun in that
We
regard.
get like an 11 a.m. or noon show airtime, so I'm not too mad about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be fun. I feel like it's going to be all right. So, yeah. And my last moment I believe I get to talk about is the 2020 men's
Mhm.
Royal Rumble. I love this one because Drew McIntyre, well, actually, I just rewatched it for the first time in a while.
You saw Brock
And
running the gauntlet in the first half.
that made me
Um,
upset.
yeah. We
Yeah,
did
that
get the
hurt my
return of like
feelings.
MVP though, which I was very
Yes, we
happy with.
did. And he came back in his Killmonger gear, and that was
Yeah.
cool. But I will say though, the first half of that match had me very upset because I'm sitting here like, why is Brock even in this match? Because I'm one
Yeah.
of these people who I'm feeling like, look, if you're the champion, they're
Yeah.
fighting, they're fighting for the opportunity to fight you.
Yeah.
Like, so why are you in? What are you
Because
doing?
if he won then he wouldn't have to wrestle at WrestleMania maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
that was really weird. But in the midst of it all, we did have a great moment where Ricochet, who was a part of the match, who deserves a lot more credit for his part in the match, gave Brock Lesnar a low blow. And then Drew McIntyre
yeah.
focused in on his Claymore kick and eliminated Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
So it was a little bit more of a fair fight in that regard because Brock had eliminated Kofi Kingston, he eliminated Big E, he eliminated a who's who at that point, and I was just
Mhm.
really upset. But the fact that these two wound up pulling the shock of the century, well, one of the shock of the centuries in this match, was just really incredible for me. And I just feel like Ricochet deserves a lot more credit for his
Mhm.
part in that because a lot of people, harp on Drew's Claymore, but it
Mhm.
was Ricochet's low blow that really, solidified that. And then Drew wound up winning the Royal Rumble, which was a great odyssey for him because he was there and was the chosen one at one point, but then he got caught
Mhm.
up and then he got let go. And then he rebuilt himself all around the world in terms of wrestling and then came back to solidify himself as the top dog he knew he could be. So you can't write a better story than that.
And you had the return. On this day, I see
Yes.
clearly the return of
Period.
Edge. Oh my God. I screamed. I remember watching this and screaming when he came back.
I couldn't believe it. I was in such shock. I was just in
Same.
complete shock when that happened. I was like, "Excuse me?
Yeah, I was like,
Really?"
what?
And it was just so amazing. Like, he was definitely my pick to win after that point. I was like,
Yeah.
hold the phone. That means he has to win this thing, right?
Yeah.
But, and I wasn't mad about Drew winning, but when Edge popped out there, I was just like, hold on. Are you serious? Come
Yeah.
on. And then, funny enough, Roman Reigns entered into the Royal Rumble even after he had a match with Baron Corbin, where
Yeah.
it was falls count anywhere, and they were fighting all over the baseball field.
Yeah.
And because they were even in the dugout, and I was just like, oh my god, like, this is crazy. So for him to come in that match, it was just really insane. And then, of course, this set everybody on fire because everybody thought, oh my god, they're gonna try the Roman Reigns thing again, and it just made everybody upset. But Drew won, so everybody was chill. And
I
this year,
think this was before this year. This was the last time I think Roman was in a Royal Rumble too.
it was because
Which
they
is
mentioned that.
crazy.
They
Yeah.
mentioned that when Paul declared
Yeah.
for him that he hasn't been in one in 5 years. So this
Which
was
is
the last one he was ever
crazy.
in.
Yeah.
That is so nuts to think about. But that's what happens when you're on top for so long. You got to work your way back. A tribal
Mhm.
chief having to fight for an opportunity? That's nuts. That's nuts to think about. And then another thing that's nuts to think about is that you had Crash Out Monday Night Messiah Seth and his disciples
Oh
in
my
this match
God.
too.
Yeah.
This was nuts, bro.
Yeah, because this was also a few months after Becky. Was this a few months after Becky gave birth too? Because no, Becky left 2019, right?
No, I think
No,
she left in
2020.
2020
You're
because that
right.
was during the
I'm
pandemic.
getting
And this
stuff
was
mixed up.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. But yeah, God, the Messiah, the Monday Night Messiah, and
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. What in the Far Cry? Oh
I
my God.
know,
He was far, but I do appreciate his dedication to this
of course,
character.
yeah,
There's a part of me that feels like we might get another iteration of this with his feud against CM Punk, though.
possible.
I really feel like this is going to happen or manifest itself in some way. Um, but I don't know if it's going to be the same way, but I
Mhm.
feel like it just might happen, and I would love it. But yeah, those are a lot of my favorite moments from the Royal Rumble. But just to be quick, because we did talk about, some of our predictions for the women's Royal Rumble this year. What is your prediction for this stacked as heck men's Royal Rumble, Ella? What are we gonna
Uh,
do?
I think so. Again, like it's hard to not listen to the reports of like what the possible Mania matches are. And one of them is John Cena and Cody Rhodes, who is the undisputed WWE champion. So again, if you go to that logic, Cena would either win Rumble or Chamber. I don't think they would put John Cena, not that he couldn't handle it, but I think John would want to be safe during his run and not risk an injury by being inside the Elimination Chamber. So I don't think they would put him inside the chamber. So for that reason, I have John Cena winning the men's Royal Rumble for the third time, the second third time winner. But again, there's a lot of big names in this. It could be CM Punk. He came in, he was the runner-up last year, but I think Seth Rollins is going to eliminate CM Punk to get his revenge. Roman Reigns, who could eliminate him? It could be, there's a lot of people who don't like Roman Reigns. He has a lot of enemies going into this. So I feel like Roman Reigns has the most to overcome, honestly, because I feel like he has the most enemies. So I'm going with John Cena.
Yeah, I feel like I felt like last week when they made all of the announcements as to who was going to be in the men's, I
Yeah.
just felt I felt my soul leave my body because because here again, like this is my first time ever attending one. And I
Yeah.
just feel like I'm just gonna be overstimulated from all of the
You
people.
have a phenomenal lineup, girl. Like,
God, from all the people who are gonna be in it. And
yeah.
I'm just like it's just so hard. Because what do you mean all of these people who have all of these intertwining,
Mhm.
stories and all of these motivations are going to be in the same Royal Rumble? Are you kidding? It's just nuts to me. I just can't even believe any of this right now. But like you, I am predicting that John Cena is going to win it all because here again he has the most to prove during his last go round.
Yeah.
He definitely has the most to prove here. So if he has the chance to go up against, Cody Rhodes, who is essentially a person who has listed John Cena as one of his motivations to be the top person, I would love that. I would really love that. And then that one doesn't necessarily even have to main event
Yeah.
um a WrestleMania night 1 or night 2. Because even when with the way that you mentioned Seth and CM Punk, that could still main event if they wanted to do it that way because that
Yeah.
would fulfill CM Punk's dream that was taken away from him last year of main eventing a Mania. You still have that. And then of course you have Drew, who is the wild card in there because he's just crashing out and just wants to hurt everybody. I don't know. Um, it's just a lot to think about. And then you have Roman, who is the tribal chief again, but yet everybody's gunning for him. Solo is still angry. He could enter the
I feel
match.
like he has so many enemies. Like,
Oh my God. It's so much.
I know.
I'm so overwhelmed by it, but I'm so very excited
Mhm.
about it. I'm just so thrilled. Um, and I just feel very blessed to be, a part of this
Yeah.
in this way as a media person and just as a fan. I'm just really happy to be a part of it and to just be in the kick of things in another state that I've never been in before. I've never been to Indiana. So I'm
Yeah,
very excited
better.
about that. You
That'll be
know,
fun for you. Yeah.
yeah, it's just really enthralling stuff. So yeah, Ella, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with me and talking Royal Rumble. And of course, you're welcome anytime you want to come on. So just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
You can find me, like it says down below there, at It's Ella J on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I am planning on going to Elimination Chamber in Toronto because it's only 2 hours from me. So if you're there that weekend, please say hello. And also, if you're there in Indiana, say hello to Stephanie. I sincerely hope you have a great time. Like the Royal Rumble, like experiencing it in person, and especially like if John Cena wins, like that's gonna be a moment you will never forget, Stephanie. So I hope you have the best time. Yeah, just stay tuned. I'll be doing a few other shows in the lead up to the Royal Rumble because it's my favorite pay-per-view. So how can I not? So just follow along on social media to stay updated.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, y'all know you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and X/Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, on TikTok for as long as we still have it, at
Yes.
Stephanie_Hardy, because this was just a nuts weekend. On YouTube at The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on Twitter at Hardy WrestlePod. And yeah, you can listen to this episode and all episodes on audio on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your audio-based podcast stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And of course, enjoy Raw and enjoy the rest of your Martin Luther King Day. And until next time, bye y'all.